I'm Sherry Kendall, and welcome to Hometown Salutes. Today, I want to welcome our guest, Tiffany Bell. Welcome.
Hi.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. Were you born and raised here?
I was born in Tacoma, Washington, and then we moved back here when I was little, and I grew up here.
Okay, so you graduated from Connersville High School?
Yep.
So at what point did you decide that you were going to go into the service?
Around high school, around, soon, sophomore year,
Okay.
I kind of made a final decision that was what I was going to do and kind of put my mind to it.
Did you come from a military family?
Yeah, my mom was in the Army, my dad was, so I joined the Marine Corps.
Okay.
To be obstinate. And, so, they were supportive the whole time, and it was pretty easy transition because they told me what a lot of things would be like, and different stations and jobs and things, so that was helpful.
Okay. So you sign up for the Marines, so you leave Connersville and you go to where?
Went to Parris Island, South Carolina.
For basic training?
For boot camp.
Okay.
Yep.
So, you're probably 18?
Yep.
So as an 18-year-old and you get shipped off to the Carolinas, what are you thinking?
Here we go.
Did you think you could make it through basic training and stuff?
I think
that
at
make you
18 you're
nervous?
just kind of naive enough to just go, yeah, it'll be okay. And you just kind of just go with it because it's what you're going to do and you're already signed up. So you just kind of go with it and you don't really try to think about potentially not making it.
So were you it's guys and girls together?
We were separate. Females were in 4th Battalion and they were separate over here. And then males had 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. And they were around. We would see them in passing, or they would do like some of the trainings, like when we were on the range or different things. They would be on their side and we'd be on our side. And but other than that, we didn't mix training. We didn't train beside them one-on-one. Whenever they were around, they were separate on one side of.
Okay.
But we could, see them, but we would run past or something,
Right. So is training just as hard for the girls as it is the guys?
Yeah.
No difference, right?
No difference. No.
So they break you down and build you up.
Yep.
And you
fun.
survived.
Yeah. It wasn't so bad. It's really not as bad as, TV makes it out to be. So.
Right. So how'd you sleep? Like you're in bunks all of them?
Yeah, we were in big long squad bays. That part's accurate if you've ever seen like a movie. Big long squad bays, and we all have a foot locker at the end of the bed, and there's with all your stuff all neatly folded, and then you have 2 bunks, and then you sleep like the dead because you're very tired.
Did you ever get in trouble in basic training?
Nope. We got together. We got in trouble as a team. I didn't really have a lot of issues. I try to just kind of keep my head down and keep quiet.
Yeah. So what happens after basic training? Do you specialize at that point, or how'd you figure out where you were going then?
Well, you pick your job before you go in with your recruiter. And then when you go, you have all your paperwork with all of your medical and all of your, information. And that part of that information is what your scores, your ASVAB, this test you take beforehand, and your the job that you'd want to do. And then after that, in the Marine Corps, you do MCT. It's Marine Combat Training or Marine Camping Trip, or another 30 days of that, and then you go, and then after that, everybody splits up and they go to their different schools.
Okay. In your schooling, what was your
training? I
training?
went to Aberdeen, Maryland, trained as an armor.
And what exactly does an armor do?
I fix weapons. Things would break out like on a range or on a truck, or they would need parts adjusted, gauged, and they would send it to me in my shop, and then we would fix it and then send it back out.
Wow. Okay, so then after you learn your training, then what happens at that point? Because you're in during the Gulf War, right?
We were all really aware of what was going on in the world at the time, and that's why a lot of us signed up, because we didn't want to not be a part of it. We watched the Twin Towers in high school, and then we all decided at that point that's what we're going to do, and that's what we're going to be a part of and support. So after that, after you get done with your school, you get your orders, and then you go to wherever you're assigned to. You get to pick, East Coast, West Coast, overseas, whichever, and then they send you to your base, and then you just start working. It's like a 9 to 5. And when I went to a maintenance battalion, and I started working, and you learn a lot of stuff on the job training, because there's a lot that you'll learn, tricks of the trade and different things. And then they asked who wanted to get deployed, and anybody who hadn't just come back from deployment, everybody raised their hand. Everybody was like, sign me up. So from there, you kind of split up, and you go to different units that need armors. They if they have a whole unit, they need so many people to do certain jobs. They'll need so many truck drivers, so many armors, so many admin people, and they'll put them all together. And so I was put in my unit there, and then we trained and did workups, and we call them workups. It's just extra training before you go, learning foreign languages or cultural things or the area, and then you get on a plane, and we flew overseas.
So you went by plane?
Yep.
Okay. And so then once you're overseas, where did you land first, and where'd you go?
We flew into Germany, and then in Kuwait, and then from Kuwait we had a little bit of time, and then we flew to Al Asad Air Base in Iraq, and we were there, and I was there for a few days, and then sometimes you get put on convoys to go to other bases because they need support. They might need an extra admin person or an extra armor or whoever at a different base, so they would send you there. Or sometimes there's other jobs that need done or programs that you can help with, and there's always opportunities.
Okay. So your schedule when you're over there, is it like a 9 to 5 job, or
Yeah.
it's pretty much during the day?
It's pretty much the same, unless you have a specialized job like you're on a flight line where flights are coming in and out, and you don't have like a set schedule like that. Get up in the morning, you get ready, you go to breakfast, you go to work, you do your job. You might exercise or have PT during the day, or, well, if it got really hot, we'd either exercise in the early morning or towards the end of the day, because we'd try to or you'd go in extra early to because it was in the summer.
I was going to ask you, when were you in? During the summertime?
Yeah, I was in there from February of 2007 to August or September of 2007, and then again between March of 2008 to March of 2009, and then August of 2008. So almost a year.
Oh, wow.
He was back within a year.
So were you at the same place both times that you were there?
Yeah, but I was, I did a lot of convoys, and I was out on other FOBs and different things and spent time out there, and sometimes...
What's a FOB?
That's a forward operating base, so it would be like an attachment, like a small township.
Okay.
Think of a township. You
Okay.
have your main group of people here, and then these people are out here watching this area, and if they had a weapon that went down or they had a problem, they would send me out there to go fix it. So I would bring all the parts and all the, the gauges and things, and we would go all the way out there, and they would bring mail and, water and supplies and socks, all those things that they would bring out, but I would also go out with them and then fix things that needed to be fixed and then come back.
So were you ever in close, bad times or anything? Did you ever actually see anything, or?
Things did happen. Things did. It wasn't always, sunshine and roses. Things happened, and we kind of just leaned on each other and got through it, really, because that's all you really can do.
Right. I thought it was interesting that you had said earlier that you're told once you're over there that you ignore children and...
Yeah, it's as Americans, we're really soft about things like that, and you see a kid and it's hard because you'll miss home, and that kid will look like a kid back here or a family member, or you'll see it in other people, and you're like, oh, and so you want to kind of have that human connection a little bit, because you don't want to be rude, but you also don't want to get yourself or your people in a situation where you get complacent, and it can be an unsafe environment if you're not conscious of what's going on. If you're talking to someone over here that gets your attention, but there's someone behind you doing something, and you just really have to be aware. And you stay so busy anyway, so it's not like you get a lot of extra time to meet with people. So
Right. So another thing that you told us about is in the Marine Corps, you were in the Linus program. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I got there. I got to Iraq. I got enough time to get unpacked, and my company gunnery sergeant came over and he goes, "Have you heard of the Line S program?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "You will," and then walked off. And within a week, I was attached to a grunt unit, and then we did some training, some, like cultural, where you're going, who you'll be with, what you'll be doing. We searched female Iraqis for det cord. Sometimes it could be in their hair because they weren't comfortable having males search them, so they would come through a gate, and so we would search them. And we had learned Arabic before we went, like all the females specifically had to learn like extra Arabic and things. So we learned all that before we went, so we could communicate with them, and all the interpreters were there, so that helped too.
Yeah.
But we searched female Iraqis for 30 plus days out in Haditha. So
did you find stuff?
occasionally, yeah. There were a few times that people had, they would come in, and it's not a rich community. They don't have vehicles, they have gardens, they have, very little. Their houses are really sparse, and we had a couple people come through, and we had one guy come in with, a couple hundred. I mean, their money's different than ours, like thousands of dollars in his back pocket, and that was really odd. And then we had a guy come through with, it was in April, so it was getting warm. Like you wouldn't need a thick jacket, maybe a light jacket, and he came in with a full leather trench coat, down to his ankles, and we're like, it's the only guy out here with a coat, and it's leather, and we're like, well, that's weird. And then we told him to come over, and we looked through his jacket, and he had 2 AK-47s with magazines in the weapons, and then he had magazines in his pockets, and we're like, what are you doing? We're here. So we confiscated everything, and then he was questioned later. Things like that. But
so when you're searching them and stuff, I mean, are they nice? Or
they're really shy. The females are really shy. The guys will talk, but they don't really care to talk to other females. They don't. But a lot of times they'll have kids, and the kids will come up and they'll like pull on your shirt, and you'll look down, and they're like this, and they'll like ask for a piece of candy or something. So we always had candy on us. But they're they're little kids,
right.
So they're like attached to mom, and they're trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
It's kind of cute, kind of sad.
Right.
But they were really quiet. A lot of them, they had their heads down a lot of the times, and eventually when they got more comfortable, they would look up, but not for very long. They were just really, really quiet and polite and thankful. And sometimes they would get a group of women together, and then like one would come over and then like try to speak English, but it was broken English, so it was really cute. So the interpreter would kind of help us out, and we're like, okay, But overall interactions were pretty placid, pretty quiet. So
okay. So the one you said that you were sitting on a pallet of money.
Oh,
do you want to
yeah.
talk about that?
At one time we had, because there's always other things going on besides what you've got going on, what our jobs are. And they did have a bank there, and they had a helicopter come in that had to be, they had money that was brought in. It was brought in on a pallet, and it had to be brought to the bank. So it was brought in, and it was put on a Humvee. It was up armored, and then it was guarded, and we walked back to the bank, and then it was unloaded. But while they were getting the giant safe open, I was like, well, I mean, that's a lot of money, and I'm probably never going to get to sit on that much money ever, so I'm going to guard it and hang out on top of this. This is a lot. I'm just going to hang out on this because this is neat.
That is crazy. So what's the weather like?
Hot.
Like,
no.
Are we?
It's not so bad because you get used to it, because we got there in the early spring the first time. So, I mean, you notice a difference, but it's a dry heat. It's like, it's not the same as with humidity. So, the temperature will say 110, but it feels like 80 or 90. But, but in the morning time when it's 90 degrees, everybody's freezing with sweats and beanies, and we're like, it's only 90,
So is there air conditioning like in where you slept and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, at the time, the first time I went, the generators weren't really reliable, so sometimes they would go out. There are heaters too, because I was there in the winter. So I mean, when in the cold, it's cold. It is. You know when it's winter, and they have rainy season in there too, somewhere in the middle around fall time. But I mean, they do have AC. They do have heat. But but like I said, the first time around, the generators weren't super reliable, so they would go out, or a snake would crawl through them, or something, a bird or something would get trapped in there, and it would shut it down, and eventually it would get going. But we always had fans, or some type of shade to be under.
So your downtime when you weren't working, I mean, what would you do?
We played a lot of cards. Played a lot of Monopoly.
Right there on your base, or
oh yeah, I mean, because you're always, it's just like a big family. So you're with your same group of people that you came out with, and whether you're in Haditha or Mahdi or wherever you are, these same group of people are who you work with and who you live with, and you're with them all the time. They are your family. So even if you don't have anything going on, they live right next door, or you're in the same room with them. So let's go play cards, or let's go for a run. Let's go to the gym. Let's watch a movie, because they had the MWR. It's just it's like a rec place. We had pool tables.
Okay.
We had a little movie room where they had, like, when people send movies over and they have extra ones, we'll put them in one big place so that everybody could get a DVD and put it in and watch it. I mean, you have to share, but they had things like that. We called home, wrote letters, did all kinds of things.
So could you ever go outside that area?
Oh yeah, on the main base you're fine.
Okay.
Main base they have. You go to the chow hall, you walk down there, you get something to eat, you go to the rec center, you go. I mean, it's just like a normal life. You just go on a main base, you just go to your job, and you do your job or your exercise, and then during your downtime, you hang out with your friends all day, and just run around and do whatever friends do. We find a board game that somebody had sent over and play games all day.
Okay.
So.
Were you able to keep in contact with your family, with your parents? Did they ever get to? I mean, can you FaceTime or anything at that time?
At that time, no. When I very first got there, you would sign up on a sign-up sheet, and you had a half an hour to call home. So you would get a half an hour, and if you might wait an hour and a half to get that half-hour call, but then you had to punch in, and that would connect to Bahrain, that would connect to another one, that would connect to here. So by the time you put your 10 minutes of effort for your 30-minute call, you're just like, oh, please answer, and then it's nice. But then you have to kind of think. I screwed up a couple times because it was daytime over there, so I was calling at like 2 a.m.
Oh, no, yeah.
Yeah, I did that. When I got back here, it messed me up because I was calling people at 2 a.m. again because I thought it was the middle of the day, and they're like, you're back. You can stop. We'll just talk tomorrow in daytime. Oh, yeah.
That's funny. So what are some life lessons that you learned from your time in the military? Are you glad that you joined?
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine what I would have done if I hadn't joined.
Yeah.
You learn a lot. You learn to prioritize your job and your family and, yourself. And you learn a lot of personal responsibility, a lot of personal accountability. And it really helps out here because even if you're not aware of, you get a job that you aren't sure of, you still kind of have that confidence that, well, I made it through that. Like, I'll figure it out.
Exactly.
We'll get through it, So a lot of lessons.
Were you able to keep in contact with some of your friends?
Oh, yeah. I mean...
Do you keep in contact, like through Facebook and stuff? Or
Facebook. We call each other. The Marine Corps birthday is a huge thing. So we'll all, like get big calls together, like 3- and 4-way calls with all of us together. And we're like, hey, how are you doing? And, they've got their accent back. And, and how are your kids? And, we all talk on a pretty regular basis, so.
Okay. That's neat. So once you came back and got out of the service, was it hard to adjust? And
It was, but I think it was different for us, my generation, because we were writing letters, and then smartphones came out while we were gone. And we came back and we didn't really have a lot of time to really adjust to that because we were so busy, and it's a new thing, so you're still trying to learn. Then we left again, and we're all still writing letters and, phone cards and stuff, and Facebook came out, and then we came back and we're like,
what is this?
what is this? So, I mean, by the time I came back here, everybody was really adapted to it, and I was just like,
That's funny.
I'll just go knock on your door. Like, I just didn't, like, it was really hard to grab. I'm like, this is a lot of time staring at
That is funny because you don't realize that, I mean, you really had no clue until you got back.
No, but I was like, I remember that song, and somebody will look it up, and I'm like, oh, that's so much easier. Like, I love this. Like,
That's funny. So what do you do now that you're back here? You give back to your community quite a bit, I've heard.
Help put on events for veterans, help with veterans support groups, help take other veterans to their appointments. I came back and I went to college and went to school, and so I can use a lot of that to apply to what I do now to help people in the community and to kind of network with different things. And so I said, you learn a lot. You just kind of
Right.
learn to kind of keep rolling
Right.
with everything.
So let's go back to, is there anything that you'd want to talk about that, like, we didn't touch base on that happened while you were over there or when you came back? Did you spend it, once you did one tour over there and you came back, what did you do at that point in time?
Took a nap.
Took it, get rested up? Did you have much time between the two?
We did. We came back the second time, and we came back in September, and then we were gone again, and we started to do what you call workups again, where you start to redo training, because everybody has to do training for certain things, like your CPR, and, just in general, safety things, all the foreign language things, and different types of whatever you would need to do. Being physically fit is a big part of it. You have to make sure your dental's good. You have to make sure there's a lot of little things in there that you don't really think about. And then once you come back, we went to California 2 different times for training.
Okay.
We went out there because we helped train with other units, and it also helps you kind of acclimate to the weather because
Over there, yeah.
it's warmer because we went to the desert. So we kind of acclimated a little bit, and then we came back here, and then we were gone again in August. So from September to August, but in between that you have some holidays and things where you can kind of go home and do some leave and kind of get settled enough and then take off again. So it wasn't so bad, but you expect it, and you sit around long enough, and then you're like, I should really be on a plane. Like we should be doing something, because everybody's coming back, and you start to notice.
Right.
So
when your 4 years were up, were you ready to get out, or did you think about re-enlisting?
I did. It was kind of a weird in-between time. We call it boat spaces. It's enough space for how many people the Marine Corps need to do that job compared to all the new people coming in. So if they're bringing in this many people and they have this many armors already, how many more do they need? So my job wasn't really a really high priority. So, I mean, there wasn't a space for me to really have that job. You have to kind of commit to it. And otherwise, because you can do other things. You can go back and teach at the school, or become a drill instructor, or become a recruiter, or different things, because you have like extra jobs, but it just wasn't, they were shrinking down a lot of numbers. It was in 2009, so they had a lot of extra people, because they had brought everybody up in 2007 and 8 to build up all the numbers to go over. And then once it was kind of over and they were slowing down, they had a surplus. So they were like, the PT standards go up. So they were just trying to cut a lot of numbers at that point. So
Yeah. So as far as the service goes, I mean, would you tell other people that was the thing to do? I mean,
oh, absolutely. I encourage people all the time to go. I mean, especially from, someone who grew up in a small town. I think it's a really good idea. It gives you an opportunity to kind of grow up and to get away from home and to still have a steady paycheck coming in, so that you're not just lost in college, without the self-discipline to kind of, keep yourself on track. It really helps. And, I had friends that they had never even considered being an HVAC mechanic, for ACs and all that, heating and ACs, and they'd never even considered it. And they went in, they were HVAC mechanics, and, you know, they'd make 3 figures a year, you know, working as a contractor now, and they love it, and they take care of their family, and they do well, and, you know, they still had their 4 years, but it gave them enough time to kind of
Right.
learn a trade, so.
Yep. There's so many opportunities that I don't think people realize.
Yeah, I mean, there's college and other opportunities too. You have your GI Bill, you come back and go to college for free, or
Yeah.
take college while you're in too. So it just gives you enough time to kind of to settle in, to be an adult, and you know.
Right. Well, Tiffany, I want to thank you for sharing your experience with us today. I want to thank you for your service and your sacrifice, and especially thank you for what you're doing, giving back to our community. So be sure to tune in next month for another edition of Hometown Salutes.